Hi everybody and welcome in this tutorial that will show to you how it's possible to move an X on an X grid by selecting a possible direction and then doing the movement. So what I have here, I have already a image that I made 256 per 256 pixel. It's an hexagon and it is also 256 pixels per unit. I have set here at the same dimension so that it will fit perfectly into 1 unit on my Unity 2D plane. So now I will add a hexagonal tile map, so to have a design template on which to move. You see that the first hexagon in this tile map as the position 000 is perfectly centered. So I will now add my hexagon to the scene, and I can see that it perfectly fit the center because it is centered in the origin and has a dimension that fit perfectly 1 unit. I recall to you that an hexagon and the tile map of Unity has exactly 1 unit of width and 1 unit of height, so it's perfectly inscribed into a square. So now I want to move this hexagon in another position and then move and explore territory. I will make in this first attempt to move an hexagon, I will have just an empty plane to explore. So what I will what I want now to do is essentially add a capability of this X to move. I can rename this as a player. I can do this in 2 ways. I can rename this object, or I can make a prefab. What I will do is I can make a prefab out of this. So I take back this, put onto the assets, and it will be transformed into a prefab. So now I have this, that is a factory of all the objects that I want to create. But this will be a perfect copy of this original prefab, but I can also modify to change. So for example, I can go in a folder that I made that's called materials. I can make a material. I can call it, for example, yellow, and changing the albedo red and green. So removing the blue, I have the yellow, and I can add this color to the hexagon that I just created. You see that the prefab has been changed in some part, so this line, this little line, show that there has been a change in respect to the template of the prefab that don't have a color. So I can change also the name of this, and I can call it player, for example. Okay, now I want to be able to instantiate another hexagon, and by pressing tab, I want to be able to explore the all the near hexagons. There are 6, as you can see. It's this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that are the surrounding the neighbors of this hexagon. To do this, and to instantiate when we want another prefab, I can do in 2 possible ways. Or I can put directly this here, call it, for example, placeholder for the movement, and make it not active so that we don't see it, like so, for example, and by scripting, by setting the set active to false. And this is a way. This means that it will be instantiated from the start. An alternative way that I want to, okay, this is the easier way. An alternative way that can be used when we need to spawn a lot of things and we don't want they are all alive in memory in a Unity scene, but we want to do on demand, we want to create and destroy object, we can take this hexagon, this prefab, and put into the resources folder that I created. I just made a create folder and I created these resources, like I created material, script, textures, whatever. I can, for example, put this hexagon 256 into, that's my image, into the textures. So when I put a prefab, so a game object, into the resources folder, I can instantiate very easily with a specific instruction of Unity that is resources.load. We will see it now. So first of all, the player must have the ability to sense, so to have a feeling of the surroundings, and then to move. So I will add the script to the player. I add the component, new script, I will call it player, the same, and I think I didn't properly add the component, new player, create and add, new script. Okay, now I have the player. This player script I normally put into script folder because I tend to keep the assets folder tab of the project very clean to understand better during the development of a game. Otherwise it becomes too crowded and it becomes very difficult then to operate during the development. So I keep it very tidy, and I will put in scripts all my C# code. So let's double click on the script player and let's start. So Visual Studio. Okay, so what I want now is obviously having a reference to me as player. So I will do private transform me, and in the start I will initialize it as get component, the transform component that I have in my game object, in me. This will instantiate me. Okay, then I need the placeholder that I want then to move around. I want to have a white or whatever X that I can create and put here, and then by tab moving around. So how can I do this? I can have a private game object placeholder, and I have to instantiate it. So how can instantiate it is, okay, we have put it into the resources, so I can do placeholder is equal to instantiate what from resources, please load the file called hexagon 256. This load the file, give to the instantiate to instantiate, and then it returns an object, so I have to cast it into a full-grown game object, and this will work. So now I have the placeholder loaded. I want to change the name of the placeholder. I don't want that it appears during my development as hexagon 256 as it is. So I will do placeholder.name. I can call it as movement placeholder, and this is how it will appear in my project at the design time. Then the placeholder, I don't want that appears on top of the player as we start, so I put it as a set active false for the moment. That just means invisible, essentially. So what I will do now? Now I have a placeholder invisible. I want to position it in the right place and move when I press tab. Essentially, in the update, I will check if I do a key down of a tab. So key code dot tab. If I am doing a tab, I want to, well, we can do just an external method. I can call it move next, just move next. So if I tab, please move on the next. Control and dot gives me the possibility to generate automatically the method. Okay, and then this, if I do a tab, then I want to press return, so accept the new position and move my player. And this I will do by doing input dot get key down, key code dot return. If we get a return, then okay, let's call it well, move player. Yeah, move player. Okay, and I auto-generated also this other method. Okay, now I want to move next. How can I move next? I have to know where to go. So I will prepare an array that contains all the possible position of the offsets. I can move 0.5 on the x and 0.75 on the y, and I will reach this. Or I can move 1 x 0 y. These were explained in my last tutorial, so I will just use these concepts now, but they are very easy, so you don't need to go looking all the previous tutorial, but if you do, you will find a lot of interesting insight on this topic. So I will make an array, a bidimensional array of numbers, coordinate essentially xy, that I call offsets. This will be a new float that I will fill of data. So the first is the top right is in 0.5 f offset on the x and 0.75 f on the y. Then I have to replicate this many times, essentially 6 times. So the second is 1.0 f and 0 f. The next one will be 0.5 f and minus 0.75 f. Then we have the fourth, so we go on the left side of the x, minus 0.5 f and minus 0.75 f. Then we go completely west, that means minus 1 0.0f and 0.0f on the y, and then the northeast, that is minus 0.5 and plus 0.75, and then I can finish with the semicomma, and I have my offsets. Good. I will need also where I am as a placeholder. Is the placeholder here? I can consider this the position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 come back to 0. So I will choose this clockwise movement for tabbing. So I will also create a private int current position, and I will start at 0. Okay. Then now I will complete this movement for the move next. So first of all, I will make active, because I pressed the tab. I want to see now my placeholder, and I want to put in a position, in this case in the current position, the first one. 0 is this coordinate, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, from 0 to 5. So I will point at this, or at the 0 element of this array. So this couple of coordinates, this will be element 0, element 1, and so on. Okay, so let's take this, and yes, let's just write placeholder dot transform dot position. Okay, where should I go? New vector 3 in, well, it's the position of me plus the offsets. So me on the x, vector 3, the x component dot position dot x plus offsets. How do I take the first element, the x component of the element 0? So it is done in this way. I can write that I want the current position, and this means 0 means this element entire, and then this is the sub element 0, sub element 1. So 0, 0 point at this, 0, 1 point at this. The 1, 0 is this element, 1, 1 is this other element. 2, 0, 2, 1, 3, 0, 3, 1, 4, 0, 4, 1, 5, 0, 5, 1. So current position, comma 0 gives me this. So current position, comma 0. For the y, I will take the me position dot y plus the offsets of current position, the other element, 1. Okay. So now I found the position of the placeholder and transformed him to go there. The last thing that I have to do is to increase current position to be able next time to move into the next. So let's prepare current position for the next tab. This we can do as a current position plus 1, but if it is more than 5, it must become 0 again, because this is the game. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not 6, but 0 again. 5, 0. When we want to avoid going over a certain circle of possibilities, then we use the modulus. So I will just do this current position plus 1. I will modulus that by 6. That means 6 should never be allowed. If it's 6, then come back to 0, this value. And this current position will come back to 0. Okay, so far so good. I think that if I don't press return, so I don't make a not implemented exception, but I just press tab, this should work already. Let's see. I will play. I have my player. Now I press tab and appears the movement placeholder. If I tab again, current position increase, has already increased, it's prepositioned, and I will take the next offset. And I keep tabbing. 5, the modulus 6 makes 0 again, and here we go. These are all the movement possibilities around an X into a 2D X tile map. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to press return and move my player. I remove the placeholder exception and I will write now the move player. Well, the move player is essentially very easy because we already have the placeholder in the position where we want to go. So I can just make disappear again the placeholder. So hide it and move the player me.position into the placeholder dot transform dot position. I want also to, it's for cosmetics, for polishing. I want to reset current position to 0 so that when I tab again, it does not start from the point where we left, but from the new position. So if we tabbed here, it will, when we move in another position, it will not start in this position relative to the player, the tab, but will start again from the northeast. So that's why I reset the current position to 0. This would be everything, I think, because it should work. We press tab, and if I press return, it moves. You can see that by going in scene and going on tile map that we are perfectly aligned with the tile map. So I will move again, and yeah, and I can just moving, exploring my territory. Here we don't have any object that can block our movement. In one of next tutorials, I will show you also how can you avoid that a possible direction is selected if there is, for example, an impassable mountain or ocean or whatever, so that only part of these movements would be allowed. Okay, if you liked this tutorial, please don't lose the chance to give us a like on the YouTube video, and please follow us in our YouTube channel to help us, and we will inform you about all the next interesting tutorials that we are making to support our efforts in the development of Unity games in this really great environment that is the Unity game engine. Thanks a lot and have a nice day. Ciao!